Picture this. You have done it. You built a really successful financial advisory practice from the ground up. I mean, you are bringing in new clients, your assets under management are climbing, and the referral pipeline is looking great.
Right. By every traditional wealth management metric, you are absolutely winning.
Exactly. But behind the scenes, everything suddenly feels, harder. You're working longer hours, not shorter.
Oh, absolutely. Every minor compliance flag or every customized financial plan, it just lands right back on your desk.
Yeah, or, every emotional client phone call during a market dip somehow finds its way to you. And you probably tell yourself, well, I just have a growth problem.
Right. The classic, we are growing so fast, we just need to hire more paraplanners. Or
Yeah.
maybe, we just need to upgrade to better software.
Yeah, but you might want to rethink that entirely. Because the friction you are feeling, it is not actually a symptom of growth. You might actually have a leadership depth problem.
And that distinction is where so many founders get trapped, honestly. They misdiagnose the pain they're feeling in their daily operations.
Totally.
They keep applying these operational bandages, like new tech stacks or new junior hires, to what is fundamentally a leadership constraint.
And that constraint is exactly our focus today. We are doing a deep dive into a really insightful white paper and accompanying infographic titled Leadership Depth: The Missing Piece in Leaving a Legacy.
Yeah, the source material was written by Don Rem from Advisor Legacy.
Right. And our mission for this deep dive is to look at why successful advisory firms hit this invariable ceiling. We want to unpack the profoundly uncomfortable shift from being an operator who does everything to a multiplier who builds a self-sustaining firm.
Because before we can talk about building a resilient firm or, maximizing enterprise value, we have to correctly diagnose the disease. Like we said, most founders are treating the wrong symptoms.
Yeah.
The central thesis of the white paper boils down to this stark reality. A business simply cannot scale beyond the leadership capacity inside of it.
Okay, let's unpack this. The source material uses a really compelling way to visualize this constraint. Think of your advisory firm like a funnel.
I love this analogy.
Right, so you are at the top, pouring in all this incredible momentum, new households, complex estate planning needs, tax loss harvesting strategies, you name it.
Yeah, you just keep pouring more into the top.
Exactly. But the opening at the bottom of the funnel, the execution side, it is getting narrower and narrower. The text points out that growth actually creates complexity much faster than it creates momentum.
Which is so counterintuitive, right? We tend to assume that if we are growing, momentum will just naturally push us through any operational friction.
Right, like we will just power through it.
Exactly. But in wealth management, more clients do not just mean more identical widgets sold. I mean, every new $10 million household brings bespoke problems.
Oh, for sure. You are dealing with complex trust structures, specific family dynamics, custom tax situations. It is never just a cookie-cutter scenario.
Right, and that creates exponential complexity, and the white paper identifies specific, tangible symptoms of this funnel narrowing, like decisions constantly flow upward to the founder.
Yeah, that is a big one.
Teams wait instead of taking action, and ultimately, accountability falters.
That wait instead of act symptom is something I hear advisors complain about constantly.
All the time.
You hire a certified financial planner, someone highly educated and capable, but they still sit outside your office waiting for you to greenlight a standard portfolio rebalance. It drives founders absolutely crazy.
It does, but we have to look at why they wait. Often, they have learned that waiting is the safest play in the firm's culture.
That is a really good point.
Right. When decisions bottleneck at the top, you are not just slowing down the growth of the firm, you are actively teaching your team to be helpless.
Wow. Teaching them to be helpless.
Yeah. If the founder has to approve every quarterly review email or double-check every MoneyGuide Pro projection, the firm's growth is strictly capped by the hours in the founder's day. The entire machinery relies on one single gear turning.
But I am struggling to see how you avoid that in practice, though. Like, put yourself in the shoes of the listener right now. It is literally my name on the ADV. I carry the regulatory risk. I am the one who sat at the kitchen table and built the trust with these families.
True.
So if a junior advisor makes a bad call on an option strategy, the client fires me, and the regulators come knocking on my door. Doesn't the buck absolutely have to stop at my desk?
Well, the regulatory and reputational risks are very real, which makes that instinct to control everything completely natural. But here is the catch.
Okay.
That exact instinct, the one that protected your clients and made you successful in the first place, is what ultimately makes your organization fragile.
Interesting. Fragile how?
Well, the white paper defines leadership depth as the presence of a qualified team capable of making decisions and maintaining accountability without you.
Right, without me.
Exactly. Clinging to total control means you are essentially protecting the firm from short-term mistakes by guaranteeing its long-term stagnation.
Ouch.
Right. If your name being on the door means every decision must cross your desk, your business isn't durable. It is entirely dependent on your personal stamina.
Wow. So if the founder's indispensability is the very thing choking the CERM, they have to completely dismantle how they view their own job description.
Yes, it requires a fundamental identity shift. And what's fascinating here is how the infographic maps this out. It describes the transition from an operator mindset to a multiplier mindset.
Okay, break that down for us.
So in the operator mindset, your daily mantra is basically, I produce results, you are the rainmaker, you solve the complex portfolio issues yourself.
Right, you are the hero.
Exactly. But to build depth, you have to cross over to the multiplier mindset, where your mantra becomes, I build leaders.
Which goes against the entire DNA of a financial advisor.
Oh, completely.
I mean, think about the early career of an advisor. You had to eat what you killed, you prospected, you won the client, you untangled their messy 401k rollovers.
He did it all.
Yeah, and you got rewarded, both financially and psychologically, for being the ultimate problem solver. It is intoxicating to be the person everyone needs. Your whole professional identity is wrapped up in being the superhero operator.
That is so true. The industry reward system absolutely conditions you to be an operator. But if you want a firm that outlasts you, that identity has to evolve.
So how do we actually do that?
Well, the source text outlines 3 specific evolutions required to make this shift. First, you must move from being a decision maker to a direction setter.
Meaning, instead of me deciding exactly how we configure the new CRM workflows or what specific language we use in a client newsletter, I just set the destination.
Exactly.
Like I would say, we need an onboarding sequence that saves 5 hours a week,
Yeah.
eliminates data entry errors, and keeps compliance happy. And then I step back.
You got it. You provide the parameters, the boundaries, and the goal, but you let them figure out the turn-by-turn navigation.
Okay, that makes sense. What is the second evolution?
The second one is much more difficult in the moment. It is moving from a problem solver to a capacity builder.
Oh man, this is where the friction lives for most founders, I think.
Oh, without a doubt.
Imagine a junior advisor comes to you with a client who is panicking about a sudden market downturn. It takes the founder maybe 3 minutes to draft the perfect, reassuring email based on 20 years of experience.
Right.
But it might take 45 minutes to talk the junior advisor through how to write it themselves. The short-term pain of capacity building is huge when you are already strapped for time.
It is a massive upfront investment of time, but you have to look at the math.
How so?
When you fix it yourself in 3 minutes, sure, you solve the immediate problem, but you leave the team's capacity exactly where it was.
Yeah, they do not learn anything.
Exactly. You guarantee they will come back to you the next time the market drops. Building capacity means stopping, sitting down, and asking that junior advisor a question.
Like what?
Like, based on this client's risk profile and financial plan, what are 3 ways we could address their anxiety, and which approach do you recommend?
Ah, so you make them do the heavy lifting.
Right. You are absorbing that 45-minute hit today, so you never have to draft that email again.
You are trading short-term efficiency for long-term leverage.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes. Which leads right into the third evolution the text mentions, shifting from a performance manager to a developer of people.
Okay, what is the difference there?
Well, performance management is essentially looking in the rearview mirror. Did you hit your new account targets? Did you complete the operational tasks I assigned?
Right, it is all backwards looking.
Yeah. But developing people is entirely forward-looking. It is asking what specific technical or emotional skills the team member needs to acquire so they can run the entire investment committee without you next year.
That is a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. And the source issues a stark warning here. If a founder fails to make this shift from operator to multiplier, they become the exact bottleneck they are trying to fix.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because understanding the psychology in theory is one thing.
Sure.
But Monday morning rolls around, the market drops 400 points, 3 high net worth clients are demanding meetings, and all this theory just vaporizes.
It goes right out the window.
Exactly. How do we execute this shift structurally? How do we build depth when the house feels like it is on fire?
This is where the white paper transitions from mindset to mechanics. The infographic details 3 specific drivers of leadership depth that a founder must intentionally implement into their daily operations.
Okay, what are they?
Clarity, ownership, and development. And they operate sequentially. You have to start with clarity because a team cannot lead if they are confused about the rules of engagement.
Going back to that symptom of waiting instead of acting.
Yes, exactly.
People usually wait because they're terrified of guessing wrong and facing the founder's wrath.
Right. If the standard for a client annual review is just the founder saying, hey, make sure they're happy, there is no clarity.
Because happy means something different to everyone.
Exactly. The team will always ask you to review their work because happy is subjective. But if the standard is explicit, that changes everything.
Like what? What is an explicit standard?
Like saying, every client review must cover these 4 specific financial planning metrics, include a tax projection, and be documented in the CRM within 2 hours of the meeting.
Oh, that is very clear.
Right. That clarity creates confidence. As the text points out, confidence is the engine that drives independent action. Vision, priorities, roles, and standards must be explicit.
And I imagine you absolutely need that explicit clarity before you can even think about introducing the second driver, which is ownership.
100%.
Because handing over ownership without clear boundaries isn't leadership, it's just negligence.
That is a great way to put it.
Let me throw an analogy at you to separate ownership from basic delegation.
Go for it.
Delegation is handing a junior associate a grocery list. Like, go to this specific store, buy this brand of software, format these reports, and send them to the client by Friday.
Right.
Ownership is handing them the keys to the car. Like, we are hosting a high net worth client dinner for 50 people to discuss estate planning. Here is the budget and the strategic goal. Figure out the venue, plan the menu, and handle the invitations.
That analogy perfectly captures the distinction made in the text.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the white paper states plainly that ownership is not task delegation. It is the transfer of actual authority and accountability.
Right.
When you hand someone the grocery list, you are still the one doing all the mental labor. You plan the meal. You haven't freed up your own cognitive capacity at all.
That makes total sense. So transferring actual authority means you have to accept that they might pick a different venue or a different caterer than you would have.
Exactly. And you cannot jump in to override them just because it is not your personal preference.
But what if my team doesn't want ownership? I hear this pushback all the time.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Founders say, I tried handing over the keys, but my staff just wants a paycheck. They want to do their tasks and clock out at 5 p.m. How does the white paper reconcile that?
That usually points to a failure in the third driver, which is development.
Ah.
Leadership depth doesn't happen by decree. You cannot just send out an all-staff email saying, you are all empowered owners now, good luck, and expect flawless execution.
Right, that is never going to work.
Development requires intentional coaching, mentoring, and providing stretch opportunities. If an employee resists ownership, it is often because they haven't been developed to handle the weight of it. Or maybe the culture historically punished them for making decisions.
Right. You can't just sprinkle leadership dust on your staff and suddenly they do not need you.
It requires deep intentionality. Carving out time to mentor your team is the highest leverage activity a founder can do.
So what does that actually look like in a busy firm?
This means pulling an associate into a complex prospect meeting they aren't ready to lead yet, having them observe, and then debriefing with them for 30 minutes afterwards, specifically about the psychology of the conversation.
Oh, so really dissecting it with them.
Yes. Giving them a project slightly outside their comfort zone, a stretch opportunity, and letting them wrestle with it. If you are not developing leaders on purpose, depth is simply not being built.
So what does this all mean for the advisor listening right now?
Good question.
If I have been trying to be a multiplier, if I am trying to provide clarity and transfer ownership, how do I honestly assess my firm? How do I know if I am kidding myself or if I actually have leadership depth?
The source text provides an acid test for your firm, structured around 4 critical assessment questions.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, can your team make decisions without you? And notice, it doesn't ask if they can run financial planning software without you.
Right.
It asks if they can make judgment calls.
That is a big distinction. What is the second question?
Second, is accountability consistent across the firm?
Meaning, if the founder is out of the country for 2 weeks, do the daily huddles still happen? Do the compliance checklists still get rigorously filled out? Or does the team slack off because the enforcer isn't in the room?
Exactly. Now, the third question, Are emerging leaders being intentionally developed?
Okay.
Is there a real documented process for it, or is it just something you hope happens by osmosis?
Right. Hope is not a strategy.
Oh, definitely not. And finally, the ultimate test. Would the business continue to perform if you stepped away entirely?
That is a brutal mirror to look into.
It really is.
If you get hit by a bus tomorrow, does the firm survive or does it dissolve into chaos? If the answer to any of those questions is no, or even not yet, then depth is your primary constraint.
Right, you are still the bottleneck.
Yeah.
And we have to connect this to the bigger picture of why this matters financially. Because to some founders, talking about developing people sounds like soft HR talk.
Oh, for sure. They just want to look at the numbers.
But Don Rem emphasizes that leadership depth is a highly strategic asset. It directly impacts execution, retention, scalability, succession, and ultimately enterprise value.
I really want to highlight that point. We are talking about the actual financial valuation of your life's work here. It is the concept of valuation based on irrelevance.
Yes.
The less relevant you are to the daily operations, the higher your enterprise multiple.
Consider a private equity firm or an aggregator looking to acquire your practice.
Okay.
If your firm produces $10 million in revenue, but every major client relationship, every investment committee decision, and every staff hiring choice relies entirely on the founder.
Yeah.
The buyer isn't actually acquiring a business, they are acquiring a deeply precarious job with massive key person risk.
Wow. And the moment the founder retires or walks out the door, the value of that firm craters to zero.
Exactly. The firms that command the highest enterprise value, the ones that actually leave a legacy, are not built around a single indispensable operator. They are built around leadership capacity distributed throughout the organization. They function like an engine that runs on its own. A firm built around an operator is like a bicycle. It might go very fast, but it falls over the absolute second you stop pedaling.
That is a fantastic visual to bring this all together. So the journey really starts with a painful realization.
Yeah.
The exhaustion you are feeling isn't just the cost of doing business. It is a structural flaw.
Exactly.
To fix it, you have to evolve from the operator who produces results to the multiplier who builds leaders.
Yes, you do.
You do that by providing explicit clarity, handing over true ownership rather than just a grocery list of tasks, and intentionally focusing on development.
Right.
And finally, you have to be brave enough to put your firm through that acid test to secure your enterprise value.
Dawn Rem summarizes the entire philosophy perfectly at the end of the text. She writes, "The ultimate measure of leadership is not how much depends on you, it is how much continues because of the leaders you develop."
It is a total paradox. Your ultimate goal is to make yourself unnecessary.
It really is.
So I want to leave you with one final thought to explore on your own today.
Okay.
Imagine if you were forced to take an emergency 1-month leave of absence from your advisory firm starting tomorrow. No answering emails, no checking the CRM, no quick text messages. What is the one specific decision, client interaction, or daily crisis you are secretly hoping no one has to deal with while you are gone? Think about that fear carefully. Whatever that specific thing is, that is your exact blueprint for where your leadership depth work needs to begin today.